presentation is going to be on strategies to support reading comprehension today.
Ooh, I needed that.
And so we're going to skip that. All right, so I just want to start off. This is really where I am, and I thought this was a really good quote. And it's to be a teacher in the right sense is to be a learner. I am not a teacher. I'm only a fellow student, and that's really what I've learned through the whole process in graduate school. And I'm still learning, so the strategies that I'm going to talk with you about today, I'm still learning how to implement in my classroom to become a better teacher. So if you have anything as we're going through some of the strategies you have maybe used in your classroom, and you find something of how you've used it, you've tweaked it in your classroom, please share out. Because again, I'm presenting on things that I have seen, that I've read about, that I have used in my classroom, but I'm still a learner too. So I just wanted to kind of start there. Why am I doing this? We will identify our school population. We know that we have ELLs here. We have people from all different family backgrounds. We identify barriers to reading comprehension that affect our populations. Discuss reading comprehension strategies. Collaborate and practice strategies that we can use with our diverse populations and diverse learners. Because we need to remember, just because we have certain populations, ELL, we have Hispanic, we have Asian, we have white, we have African American, we have all of these populations. Just because some of them are coming from the same population doesn't mean that they learn all the same way. Each individual child also learns their own way, so we need to understand that as well. And then at the end, we're going to reflect on what we have learned. Okay, and then so let's look at some barriers for reading comprehension. First of all, weak social and emotional relationships. That's been a really big push at our school this year for reading the book. That what I wish my teacher would know. Inaccurate or slow identification of words. Low interest and motivation to read. Limited vocabulary. So we're really going to type into, first of all, the low interest and motivation, limited vocabulary. We're going to look at the Frere model to work with that. Failure to understand and identify text structures. We're going to look at the importance of text structure. And unable to monitor comprehension due to the lack of comprehension strategies. All of those strategies are to hit these topics, which are barriers to effective reading comprehension. Let's see. All right, reading comprehension. Why do we see such a discrepancy a lot of times between, we look at our M-class data, they seem like they're growing in their fluency, they're recalling the words, they're growing, and then what happens come EOGs, or we ask them to recall and explain what they've read. A lot of times they're discrepancy. What's interesting, and the reason why I chose comprehension strategies, was because there was a study done, and out of 2,200 children, they were reportedly assessed during their kindergarten through third grade years as a part of childhood longitudinal study. The data collected suggested that the majority experienced large gains in sight word recognition, which is what we're seeing through M-class. Okay? Decoding and using context to recognize the meanings of words, but weren't able to proficiently interpret, comprehend written text. And that is because of this next slide right here. And I'm just going to talk through this one. I don't want to keep reading to you. Is because what teachers a lot of times, and I've been myself have been caught doing this. We spend so much time teaching phonics. We spend so much time teaching high frequency words. But then what do? We tell them, we read the book, and then we say, go answer these questions. We say, go answer these questions, and then come back to me. Some of your higher learners are going to be able to do that. They're going to be able to answer the questions. We're failing our kids because we don't teach them the reading, the comprehension strategies to be able to dig deeper in them. Some kids can, like I said, the higher learners, they can transfer that knowledge on by themselves. But many of them can't. Our ELL population more than likely cannot. They need support there. Our CCR population, they cannot. They may need support there. The strategies that we're going to go over today are going to need to be able to have those, okay? And this is the documentation from Gansky and Fisher. Few comprehension strategies were being taught, they found. Instead, children were just being merely asked to answer the comprehension questions. The who, what, when, where, and why. Those are not high-level questions. Okay, if you think back, there also a lot of times we give them questions, right? They're surface questions. We're not asking them to apply any knowledge within the text. So when they get to, when we make a shift from reading learning to read to reading to learn, they're not making the shift in 3rd grade. Okay, reading instruction needs to develop students' thinking skills and knowledge of strategies to support their ability to interpret, visualize, self-question, summarize, and reason while reading. Okay, the most important point for teachers to understand about comprehension strategies is that they are only important if teachers expect more from their students than answering literal comprehension questions. In addition to learning about the strategy, students need multiple opportunities during guided reading, independent reading practice to apply the strategies, and that's why that guided reading practice. My philosophy, whether it goes after they teach it, kindergarten can be a little bit different, but first through, I still pulled guided reading groups in 5th grade because I think a strategy group is important. Okay, first of all, it starts with relationships. Kids don't care what you know until they know that you care. We need to build the relationships. We need to treat them as, just as teachers, we all are different, we're all unique. We need to build that learner profile and figure out who our kids are, okay? If I fail, the part of the quote says, if I fail, I will fail if I stereotype my students or teachers rather than approach each of them as an individual student. Understanding students' interest is the next one. We give this is a really good one if we think about asking our students to reflect on their knowledge, what interests them. We give out interest surveys in the beginning. What do they like? We try to figure out their interest in the smarts. What types of books do they like? That's another good interest one. Okay, read aloud. This is my favorite strategy overall, is the read aloud. This is where I love to build community, okay? Creating community in read alouds means creating a place where children want to live as well, where they feel heard, respected, and where they'll want to spend time every day. So I'm going to kind of start with the read aloud, okay? And read alouds, you want to be intentional, okay? Read alouds, you can build vocabulary, you can build fluency. They're going to hear you read. Read alouds, you need to read oftentimes a higher text because they're going to hear you read words that they're not really going to encounter. You can build your standards in through the read aloud. You can build just that collaboration, okay? So intentional, these are the 2 books that I read in 5th grade last. I'm sure you've heard of them. Wonder is out, Seraphina is out. So I would intentionally mark my books because I knew that when I was going to read, these are the places that I wanted to stop, and we could have that collaborative piece. Vocabulary would come out. But I would always try to hook my kids, and so I'm just going to read a little bit. When I was in college, my professor would also read to me. But what I meant was by hooking them, I would sit in my chair and I would read to them, this big puffy chair, and they would all come back down to me. Stephanie Reed, I know, still does that. I love to walk in her class and she's reading. Sorry, Stephanie, I don't want to put you on the spot. But that's something that the kids love. They love coming to you. They sit on the floor. And so, but it's just a great conversational starter piece. But just like if you're imagining that you want to build the background before you start. You want to talk about text structure before you get started. So you've built that background knowledge before you start the read aloud. So they know what kind of genre you're going to read. They're expecting what type of story that you're going to read. In Seraphina, we've already talked about the Biltmore. So when they start hearing those things, they know what they're going to expect. We've talked a little bit about some of the vocabulary that we're going to read in chapter 1. So when they hear those words, when we encounter those, they kind of already know. But I was just going to read and talk, and so you can kind of see what kind of conversations that you could start with. So it starts out ordinary. It says, I know I'm not an ordinary 10-year-old. I mean, sure, I do ordinary things. I eat ice cream, I ride my bike, I play ball, I have an Xbox. Stuff that makes me ordinary, I guess. I feel ordinary inside, but I know ordinary kids don't make other ordinary kids run away, screaming in playgrounds. I know ordinary kids don't get stared at wherever they go. If I find a magical lamp and I could have one wish, I would wish that I had a normal face that no one ever noticed at all. I would wish that I could walk